BPAC Chair, Tom Modick. Thank you for coming.
This is the special meeting of the Bicycle Pedestrian Committee. February what? February 1st.
2016.
Yeah. And I don't have that on my agenda.
All right. Well, but what I know about the agenda is we'll do the roll call of the BPAC members,
Right.
and then we're going to move public comment to the end of the agenda.
Sounds great. Okay, so call the roll of members of BPAC first. Tom Modick, Chair. Where is everyone?
David Pittsburgh.
Laura McCaney.
Ken Bukowski.
Okay.
Is that it for the members?
That's it. I know the new member can't make it, and
So we're
Miguel
not
is
one
not
short,
here
are
now.
we?
How many members are here of the BPAC?
Hold your
Raise
hands
your
up
hand.
that are members.
5.
Oh, okay.
So we have a quorum, that's fine.
That's enough. Yeah. 5 out of 7.
Okay, and what's next on our agenda?
That says Horton Street traffic calming.
Yeah, so we're here basically for the Horton Street traffic calming. Most of your tables, you will find 3 different versions from Alton.
All right,
So I'll give it over to, or give it over to you.
Give it over to me first. Hi, I'm Nancy Humphrey. I am the Environmental Program Supervisor here at the city. While I have your attention, I point out there are some of these flyers outside, and I have some here. We're going to meet again in this, well, the city's going to co-host an event here again in this room on February 11th to site locations for bike share stations for Emeryville. So you're all bike interested, bike ped interested, come to this workshop on February 11th.
What time? What time?
It'll be held twice, same thing twice, 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock.
Okay.
Thanks. So we're here today to talk about the Horton Street traffic calming, experimental traffic calming project. And I know that there may be some confusion related to recent EIR that was released for Sherwin-Williams and some traffic things in that. That's an entirely separate process. We're here today as a continuation of a process that in 2014, in October or November 2014, we went to council with a proposal from the BPAC to do traffic calming between 45th Street and 53rd Street on Horton on an experimental basis. And the point would be then we install some temporary calming measures and we leave them in for a year or more, and we determine whether and to what extent they worked to calm traffic. The calming would do 2 things. One is slow cars down, and secondly, presumably, hopefully, dissuade people from using Horton as a cut-through. If it's slower, then we think they'll choose a faster route. That's why they're using it now, is because it's fast. So we want to slow it down. We'll have public comment at the end.
Well, it's a clarifying question.
Yeah.
But what do you mean, who cut through traffic? Who determined that that's what we're trying to get rid of?
That's just my opinion, that there's some
Okay.
cut through traffic. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to hand it over to Alta Planning and Design, which is the consultant that won the contract from us for this work. They're going to run you through a kind of planning session with some scenarios that they put forward, and Jeff Knowles will explain that to you. And before we get going, I want to point out for those of you who haven't been here before that the restrooms are down this hall around the elevator bank, and you'll see them there straight ahead. And they have lock codes on them, but those are open, so don't be dissuaded.
I have one thing, just a housekeeping thing. If you haven't found a sign-in sheet and you have one on your table, could you please pass it around? And if anybody doesn't have one, raise your hand and I'll get you one. Thanks.
Okay, so then without further ado, I'll turn it over to Jeff Knowles of Alta Planning and Design.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedules to be here. My name is Jeff Knowles. I'm with Alta Planning and Design. I want to recognize some of my colleagues that are in the room. We have Principal Brett Hundrup is here. We have an engineer, Laurencia Dushik is here. And Sarah Goss is here. Sarah is also a resident of Emeryville, so she's our plant. So I want to call that out very quickly from the get-go. All right, so she can give all the right answers. Tonight we are talking about traffic calming measures, proposed traffic calming measures on Horton Street between 45th and 53rd. So the way that we're going to go for the night is I'm going to give a very brief presentation overview that places these proposed concepts that we're bringing to you into context, and then we're going to turn it over to each of the tables. So eventually we want everybody to be around one of these 6 tables, because then we're going to walk through a couple of scenarios where I'm going to ask you guys a series of questions, and you're going to provide your feedback using colored stickers. All right, so it's a lot of fun. We'll get through that, and at the end we'll tally up and see which concepts are kind of rising to the top, which ones are falling behind. And from that we can kind of get an assessment, and that will factor into the decision making about what will be recommended to Emeryville for permanent and temporary solutions for traffic calming. All right, so a little background. So again, these traffic calming measures come directly out of the 2012 pedestrian and bicycle master plan that we at Alta helped create, and it was approved and adopted. The goals here for this project in particular are to try and enhance those goals set forth for Horton Street, which is to keep the goals, the traffic volumes, at a lower level than what we've been experiencing and seeing on the street. Right? So the way that we do that is we're going to introduce some measures, and I'm going to give you a quick tutorial about some of the traffic calming measures that we came up with. The whole idea is to reduce speeds and also reduce volumes on the street to really make this a bicycle priority street. Right? It's set forth as a bicycle boulevard. What we're going to try and do is find enhanced techniques to really make that a true priority. Okay? So, a little background. Anybody ever been on Horton Street between 45th and 53rd? Raise your hands if you're familiar with this stretch. That's great. Wonderful. So I can fly right through this, all right? You're all experts on this street. So there's a lot of interesting things going on. For a large portion of it, there's red sidewalk, no parking on one section of it. That's an interesting, something that we discovered, and maybe we could play around with the lack of parking on some sections of the street. There is a speed feedback sign posted, so that's a great traffic calming measure in its own right. We want to see if we can enhance that or maybe duplicate that. There is a built-in chicane or curb extension, curb bump out. All right, let's see if we can play around with that. Maybe we can do more of those on the street. All right. Some traffic calming treatments, kind of in general. These are the things that you will see on your plan sets. There's one plan set per table here. We have chicanes, which is basically extending the sidewalk out into the street in small intermittent areas. What this does is this narrows the cartway, narrows the roadway, so that drivers need to pay attention, slow down, and shift their lanes a little bit. We also have this idea of a mountable median. Right? A mountable median means that emergency vehicles can go over it, turning trucks can go over it, but most motorists will not want to go over this middle median, and people will then have to slow down to avoid it. Another traffic calming treatment is the slotted speed hump. The slotted speed hump. Why the slotted speed hump? We like this treatment more than speed tables because emergency vehicles, the width of their tires could go right down the middle. The width of most vehicles, if you tried to do that, you'd still hit the speed bump. So it's going to slow traffic, right? So this vertical element in the design. A protected bike lane. This is apparent in 2 of our concepts that we propose here. A protected bike lane can be many different looks and feels. This one has a mountable raised surface, right? So this is actually a physical separation between moving traffic and the bicyclists. Another version could look like this. This is with flexible delineators, right? So again, adding that vertical element is going to visually cue cars that need to slow down and pay attention. Right? It also gives that little bit of safety barrier between the bicyclists and the vehicles. So I'm going to bring Laurencia up in just a second to talk about our concepts. We have 3 concepts with one is a subset concept. So really 4 for you guys to look at. The first one we call vertical deflection. Right? Vertical deflection uses mountable medians. It uses chicanes and speed humps. The second concept that we have is called protected bikeway. It uses a protected bike lanes with mountable raised surfaces and flexible delineators. There's an option that has parking removed, and we want to get people's reactions to this concept, both positive or negative. And we also have a concept where we left as much parking as we could. Right? There are pros and cons for each of those. We're going to get into that hopefully as a discussion with each table. And then our fourth concept is a horizontal shift. This is the one where those offset chicanes and those mountable medians are in the middle, forcing traffic to slow down to avoid those middle of the island sort of distractions.
I'm sorry,
Yep.
can you clarify that the difference between 1 and 3? I don't understand what's different.
Right. So mostly it's just the placement of the chicanes. The first one is using speed humps in the middle of the street to slow down traffic. The third one is really using that median to slow down traffic.
So the chicanes are in the middle and the curbs are on the outside?
Yes, exactly. So you can put those chicanes either to pinch the traffic down at one point on both sides coming together, or you can offset them so that traffic has to kind of meander or swerve. Right? Both of those are effective at slowing down speeds. And really at the end of the day, it's making it less of a advantageous street for people that just want to cut through, right? If they want to cut through, we really want to send them over to Hollis Street. Horton Street should be really about making it safe and enjoyable for people to bicycle as a priority, right? So the way that we do that is we make it a little bit less enjoyable for people that want to have high speeds cutting right through. All right? So Laurencio, do you want to come up and go through these concepts kind of in detail and walk you through? Yes, sir.
Sorry, my question.
Yes.
The bicycle plan has another option that you didn't mention there. The choker idea, the one-lane bridge achieved by, bollards,
Right.
temporary or other, planters or whatever. So I'm just kind of curious, how come that's not making it into tonight's presentation? It's in the plan.
I don't think that the
Hold on.
council...
Yep, we looked at the plan, we looked at what was proposed, which again, Alta helped write, and we went back to city staff as well. And we had a meeting to talk about these concepts, and this is what kind of came out of those meetings, what we thought would be most effective for the street as available.
Okay, one last clarifying question, if I could. What's in the bike plan is two metrics, and if you didn't talk about them, I'm just wondering why I didn't talk about them. It's just, what was that, 25 miles per hour and less, and 3,000 vehicle trips per day and less on this bike boulevard. Are you getting rid of those two metrics?
No, we're using this as broad goals for where we want to be with this, and I think that will come out once these are implemented as a temporary basis. Then you can go back and see if this is actually helping the city meet those goals in the bike.
3,000 is still extent.
What's that?
3,000 is still extent. You're not trying to take that away.
Still not trying to take that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Laurencio, why don't you go through concept one? Then after we get through, we'll ask more questions to clarify the concepts. Does that sound good? Okay. Laurencio.
Thanks, Jeff. So yes, my name is Laurencio Duszczuk. I'm an engineer with Alta Planning and Design, and we developed three concepts for traffic calming on the street. And really, concept 2 has 2 versions. So in reality, there's 4, but we're gonna go through and look at them. So the first one is we call it a vertical deflection, and to clarify, the main feature of this design is the speed hump. So that would vertically deflect vehicles and efficiently slow down speeds. And we also added in chicanes and medians to add additional traffic calming features there. So, but the main feature I want to clarify is the speed humps. And for concept 2 is so we discovered that there's a lot of red curb along the street. So adding bicycle lanes would not impact a lot of parking. So we looked at that option and we developed this option, developed this concept that would add protected bike lanes for the entire corridor from 45th to 53rd. And again, as Jeff mentioned, parking is still very important here. We understand, and then we have a version 2B where we maintain parking by the 45th Street intersection. Very similar concept, and to address the fact that we're stopping the bike lane somewhat mid-block, we added in a vertical speed humps to to slow down vehicles even more there. And concept 3 is a horizontal shift, and to accomplish this, we added it in chicanes and medians where vehicles would have to shift horizontally to maneuver around there, and with the slow down speeds there. And that's it, yeah.
For people who aren't familiar with reading plans, can you explain why there are 2 sections of road and how they work?
Oh, you mean the 2 images? Right, of course. So it's there's a match line at the top right, and then one at the bottom left. So technically, that would just be the same street if we attach it together. So it continues from 53rd that way, and then the bottom part continues to 45th. And I think that's it, Jeff.
Any questions to clarify about the elements that you see on these plan sets? Yes, sir.
Has there been statistically relevant metrics about these and their effectiveness has been demonstrated on other streets?
There have been at a national level and at a statewide level, but they are, in my mind, not the best for telling us exactly what's going to happen on Horton Street. And that's why I think the city of Emeryville has a really smart idea to do this as a temporary basis and actually measure which elements are working, and then they can do that before they make an expensive investment in a permanent solution. So we're going to propose what we think is best from the traffic calming work that we've done around the state, and then we will test that over the course of a year, and that will tell us if these measures are effective or not. Yes?
When we discussed this at the BPAC, one of the things that we looked at with chicanes was something where traffic would be deflected, but bikes would go straight. So because one of the things that's an issue right now in Horton is there's a pinch point where there's something in the middle, and that is often a point of conflict between cars and bikes. Is that in here? It doesn't look like it to me, but I don't know if I'm reading, or could it be part of this?
Could be part of that. We can get into that with the chicanes. Basically talking about the chicanes being actually islands, and so bicyclists can be closer to the curb and go through. That's an option. Absolutely, we can look at that. Yeah, with the speed humps, you will notice that the speed humps, unlike a speed table, which is curb to curb, these speed humps do allow bicyclists to avoid going over the humps. But as I think Nancy pointed out, sometimes as a bicyclist, sometimes it's fun to go over speed humps too. So.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So 2 questions. On any of those proposals, do you know exactly how many parking spots you're getting rid of?
Yes, and I do believe that is that noted at the top?
Yeah, every page has that noted at the top.
Parking spaces lost for this one and 3, it's 15. It should be at the top right there. 15 out of what we're estimating approximately 45 spaces.
And also, has any of the plans taken into account the fact that the exit from, or entrance, how we would say, from Sherwin-Williams Street onto Horton is it practically a blind intersection? So if any of those chicanes or anything are placed in it, you're making it even more blind, someone swerving around and potentially not even seeing anyone.
The most dangerous intersection on entire Light Boulevard is not even in your map, which is at Sherwin at Horton. That's the blind intersection, and it's ridiculous.
Well, we're going to get into a discussion at the tables where we want to hear exactly these sorts of things so that when we come back, we don't have anything left out. Yes, sir.
How far away are we from our goals right now? What's the current situation? The goals in terms of like the number of cars or the speed of the cars?
Right now, average, from what I've seen, the average levels are still kind of hitting the goals, but you still have those erratic drivers that are kind of cutting through, right, at high speeds. Right.
Way over 3,000.
All right. Yes, sir.
This is another question about learning from past experience at the national and state level. I can see why past experience wouldn't necessarily determine what we recommend tonight. However, our goal here is to suggest effective measures that we think will be effective. What are we going to test first? It would help me, not having any previous experience, to know what the experience has been with these different concepts. Right. Anything that you can share with us from past studies?
Nothing that I can share with you tonight. Hopefully this will be a lot about your experience as a driver, as a pedestrian, as a bicyclist, how you use a street given what you see on this map. And maybe there are people that have biked in Berkeley, that have biked in areas where they've seen some of these traffic measures that can bring to effect. Yes, sir.
Is this the time for detailed questions about the drawing? Because a few things I don't understand.
Yeah,
Or
if
is
you
that
have
clear
clarifying
later?
questions about this, we're going to dive into kind of the evaluation of these concepts in small groups. So if you have a question about kind of clarifying what we're presenting here.
Yes, and it's actually on this page 4 of 4.
Okay.
The, let me get the right word for it. I don't know what that is.
Is that a chicane?
The, okay, on the upper right, on the top part of the drawing, right where Horton, it says Horton Street.
Yep.
There's an oval there.
You're talking about in the middle of the street or on the side of the
To
street?
the side of the street.
The side, that's a chicane. So that's
Okay.
basically a point where we're going to pinch down the traffic and it's going to narrow the carway.
Good. And does that go all the way to the curb? Like, where does the curb begin? Like, where would a cyclist go? To the left of that or to the right of that?
They would go to the left of that. They would ride with traffic, right in the street. Right. So that's a real good distinction between this versus those protected bike lanes, right? For 1 and 3 are 2 concepts. It's really talking about making bicyclists feel safe biking with mixed traffic. Right? Yes, ma'am.
I have a question about your timeline, because you're talking about temporary. I know this isn't a meeting about Sherman-Williams, but we all know Sherman-Williams has a major project that they're going to do that is going to interface with Horton Street. So how are your timelines and the timelines for the beginning of this project going to interface?
That is a good question that I'm going to turn over to the city, I think, to answer about timelines.
Sure. So timeline would be once we've approved, or once the city council has given us direction to move forward with one of these concepts, we'll move forward right away to develop the plans and specs with Alta, and then we'll bid it out and have it under construction so that ideally we'd be maybe implementing it this summer. And then we want to try it out for at least a year or 2, at which point we understand that Sherwin-Williams might have been approved and a phase of construction may have started, and we will, there's going to be construction traffic on the street. So these ideally would be in place and will help to reduce the impacts to the people that use Horton Street.
I think it would be really important to have some kind of real understanding of these timelines, because
Right,
they
so the
will.
experiment will probably be, we'll be watching the effectiveness while potentially some construction might be underway. And then ideally, we're going to set up our conditions of approval on the Sherwin-Williams project to be able to implement permanent improvements here once we figure out which ones were effective, and we can come back and figure out what those would be.
Maurice, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Maurice Kaufman. I'm the Public Works Director and City Engineer.
Thanks, Maurice. In the back, yes, ma'am.
With the plans with the protected bike lane, would that change the bike boulevard status of the street? Would it become a protected bike lane street, or would the bike boulevard status remain plus a protected bike lane?
Good question.
I would say that there are bike boulevards with bike lanes. We have it already on Horton Street near the Novartis campus, so we have bike lanes there. It's still a bicycle boulevard.
Other questions before we dive into small group? Yes, sir.
It looks like in none of these designs would the capacity of the street be affected from today. Is that true?
The capacity as far as?
Well, in other words, if we had bumper-to-bumper traffic on the street, would the capacity as it is now and the capacity of these designs be the same?
Right now, there's one chicane essentially built in, a curb extension over the creek. Otherwise, it's an open road, no actual striping.
But I mean,
So
what I'm asking about is car throughputs. I take it the thing that controls car throughput is not the speed on the street, but the stop signs or intersections. Sometimes when there's a lot of traffic, there's a wait at an intersection. When there's little traffic, there's no wait. So I take it that basically the capacity of the street would remain the same as it is today. Is that true?
I think that it'll make the driving environment much less conducive for people that want to just cut straight through. So it will force you to drive slower and be more careful and be more observant of other people using the street.
Yes, but the actual capacity would be the same. Meaning, just you know, cars are bumper to bumper, it's going to be the same if they're going, you know, without the stuff than if they're there.
I think for capacity, I mean, you still have one lane in each direction, right? And typically capacity is dependent upon speed limit and your ability to get cars through. Like if you have stop signs, you'll have congestion. You won't have as much cars coming through it as quick. So what we're trying to do is slow down the cars, so you're not going to have as many cars coming through. So as a result, it could impact or reduce your capacity if it's not moving as much. It's like you're creating more friction, so that the cars will go slower, and then you get a reduction in capacity in that way. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring down the speeds and ideally deter vehicles from people in cars from using that street. And that's what we're trying to experiment to see what's most effective.
All right,
I just want to hear from a traffic engineer to say yes or no about capacity. Is it reducing capacity, yes or no?
We will find out once it's installed, but yeah, we would like the idea for it to have less cars using the street for cut through, making it just for local traffic, people that work and live close by. That's really the idea here. All right, final question before we go into
Clarifying points and then a clarifying question. And then I have a much bigger point that I guess, when can we have a discussion? Is that going to be way later?
You've been doing it the whole time, so.
No, is that going to be way later, the discussion?
We'll see what comes out in the small groups.
Okay, let me do the two clarifying points and a clarifying question. Just to answer Mr. Kaufman, the Public Works Director made allusion that the Horton Street is a bike boulevard and with bike lanes on it. In fact, Horton Street is not a bike boulevard as defined by the city of Emeryville, because that would have to have less than 3,000 vehicles trips per day to be legally a bike boulevard. So
That's not true. You know that's not true. There's a
no, I'm sorry. I'm speaking here. I'm sorry. I'm speaking. Could you not interrupt
clarifying
me?
point.
I'm sorry. Could you please not interrupt me?
Brian,
could you please not interrupt me, please?
Brian, we're not going to put up with this today.
Could you please not interrupt me, please?
No, I'm going to interrupt you to answer you. You're saying that there won't be a bike boulevard.
Oh,
There will be a bike boulevard. There is a goal of 3,000 cars on this bike boulevard.
Thank you anyway.
Okay, thank you.
I can't ask clarifying questions without being interrupted by the city officials. Okay. Thank you anyway. City officials are not interested in letting me ask clarifying questions that other people are allowed to ask. So that's sort of unfortunate.
We'd love for you to stay.
I think Emeryville residents should be able to be treated equitably and fairly. I guess that's too much to ask. Thank you anyway, everybody.
Thank you very much. All right, last question before we break into small group, and I want to get to this fun activity that I got planned. All right.
There's been some, I don't know whether it's in official circles or not, discussion about more radical solutions such as closing Horton at 40th Street, putting a diverter there. We know there was a discussion at Sherwin, that was nixed, but moving it toward 40th, is that outside the bound of this discussion?
Yeah, so that's, there's actually a mitigation discussed in the Sherwin-Williams EIR to look at that, and it was fully studied, and that's out there for public comment right now, but it's a separate project. These traffic calming measures would be done regardless of whether or not those diverters went in.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at this point now, I'd like for everybody who's not at a table to please join a table. All right, we're going to go into a couple rounds of activities here where we're going to evaluate in small groups each of these activities. All right, so please spread yourselves out. We've got 6 tables here, and there's 1 plan set per table. All right.
Do you have an opinion? I don't have a hard opinion. So these are split.
Yeah. All right, folks. With your blue dot, what I'm going to ask you to do is first imagine yourselves, all right? Imagine yourselves as a bicyclist going down Horton Street, all right? Imagine yourself a bicyclist going in each direction, going from 45th to 53rd and 53rd to 45th, each direction, right? So as a bicyclist, which concept do you like the best, right? As a bicyclist, which one responds to your needs, your preferences the best? Is it 1, 2, 3, or 4? Discuss with your group. Why do you like 1 versus 2? Once you're done, put your blue dot, each person gets 1 blue dot, on the concept that you prefer as a bicyclist.
Scott will say my blue dot. I actually should be
without studying these closely.
Pedestrian-friendly concept and bicycle-friendly concept with your blue and yellow dots. And now it's individual turn about each individual element. So each person should have 3 red dots, they're tiny, and 3 green dots, they're also very small, right? This is where we're going to talk about individual elements, all right? If you really like chicanes, you can load all of your 3 green dots onto the chicanes. If you want to spread it out and say, I like the chicane, I like the speed bump idea, I like the bike lane, put your green dot on that, all right? Your red dot is what you hate. You do not want to see these things go on Horton Street today, tomorrow, or ever, all right? So vote with your green, vote with your red. What are your 3 favorite elements? What are your 3 least favorite elements?
So we get 3 of each, is what you're saying.
3 green, 3 red, and you get to choose.
We need more. All right,
we got some more.
We need about 100 more over here.
Anybody need more dots?
All right, we're coming with more dots. Getter for favorite and least favorite. We're going to go around in a second, and I'm going to kind of get a sense of the room. All right, we're going to tally it up. We're going to put it on board. We'll see kind of what came out of these discussions. All right. After that, we'll talk about next steps, and we'll go home and all have this.
Yeah, but I mean, if you had this, there are no bumps on this. Yeah, so you put speed tables on there, put speed tables all along there, and you got half as many cars and the bikes protected.
Yeah, but I need to indicate.
If you had this, there are no bumps on this. Yeah, so you put speed tables on there, put speed tables all along there, and you got half as many cars and the bikes protected.
Yeah, but I need to indicate.
Right, speed tables on this one, speed humps on that one.
And you
The placement.
Exactly. And so they're going to try to straddle it like we mentioned the other.
But Brett said they could space it so that it doesn't match their wheels.
Right. So the bikes protect the bikes. Really make it awful for the cars. And then so build 500 units of housing.
And then the question, I still have to get an honor bar somewhere. I guess the question.
Okay, so every table now knows what's the top vote getter for pedestrian and bicycles and your favorite and least favorite as a group, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to call this table 1. Table 1 is in the my far right. Please tell me your number 1 vote getter for best for bicyclists.
2A.
2A. All right. This is table 2.
This is table 2?
Yes, for bicyclists. Which one is your
2A.
2A. All right. This is table 3 right here.
Concept 3.
Concept 3. All right, table 4.
2A.
2A. Table 5 right over here, Tom.
Oh, I think we're concept 1.
Concept 1, all right. And then last but not least, table 6, please.
Concept 1.
Concept 1. Pretty
That's for hitting bumps.
pretty all over the place, actually. So what this tells me is that we need to go back and find elements within each of these to maybe draw out, all right? I hope that I mentioned this, and if I didn't, I apologize. We gave you clean concepts of each of the different elements. It's like a buffet. We can mix and match at this point. We can find what we want to combine together. All right, for pedestrians, please. Table 1, what's your number 1?
It was a tie between 1 and 2A.
1 and 2A? All right. All right, table 2.
Concept 1.
1.
Pedestrians.
All right, table 3.
No opinion.
No?
Any of them would.
It doesn't change that much for the walkers.
All right, table number 4.
3.
3. Table number 5. 1. And table number 6.
2A.
2A.
What do you guys have?
Michael Green.
All right. Then the most number of green dots, please. These are the things you really love that you want to say, you know, it would break our hearts if you didn't include this in the final plan. All right, table number 1.
A tie between 1 and 2A.
I'm asking for, sorry, I should clarify, the specific elements. Was it speed bumps that you saw a lot of red dots on? Was it
Going for red dots?
green dots, sorry, green dots.
I didn't quote mine, I'm gonna put it on the protected bike.
The speed bumps have 4, 2, 3. These have 3. These have 10. Yeah, by far.
Bike lane, bike lane.
Yeah.
Okay.
And speed bumps.
Oh, and, yeah.
All right, table 2.
Bike lane
Bike lane, they like the bikes.
with speed bumps.
Was it
Keep trying to
the
get
number
two
one
votes.
thing, or is it?
Just the number one thing. All right, table 3.
Get rid of the speed bumps was number 2, so you can't have that. You're asking for something different.
Sorry, we misunderstood.
This is like Iowa.
Oh, the most.
Table 4,
Because
please.
all the minority votes don't get counted.
No, it's terrible. First round, there should be.
Table 5, please.
I guess it would
Do
be
we
the
have any
chicanes.
gloves? We like the slotted speed bumps.
We had 3.
Oh, sorry.
All right, you know what? Noisy table 6 over here. Come on.
Troublemakers.
What was it? I'm sorry. Table 6.
Oh,
Yeah.
We got
slotted
three.
speed bumps with the
All right,
slow
yeah.
down traffic,
Slotted
but
speed bumps.
with the divider in between. And I like the 2-foot separation. I don't really know what that's supposed to be for bicycles, but that long line that looks like a bike lane, but.
Oh, the protected bike lane?
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, so let's go with the least favorite things that we need to nix. All right, table 1.
Our table was the chicane.
They didn't like the chicane. Table 2.
Chicane.
Didn't like the chicane. Table number 3.
The chicanes, but specifically the pinpoint ones?
Not, it wasn't chicanes, it was pinch points.
Pinch
We like
points.
chicanes, we didn't like chicanes.
Thank you.
Table 1 has some good ideas. Very smart people.
Table 4.
Bad parking bike lane and parking transition
Got
spots.
it. I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
This.
All right, table 5, please.
Yeah, they're trying to chance to get hit.
The same thing as
Scott's Bernie, but that's the way to slow down traffic, because I have lots of bicycles.
And table 6, my favorite table.
Chicanes and the pinch points.
Chicanes and the pinch.
Accidents really slow traffic.
No one likes it.
I just don't want to be.
So just a really kind of closing summary, what we're seeing here is that, a lot of people are enjoying the bike lanes, they're liking the bike lanes as far as a traffic calming measure, and chicanes are kind of on the way out. But what we're going to do is we're going to record and take each one of these sheets. We're going to look at all the green dots, all the red dots, and please, if you have specific comments, feel free to write on the maps themselves, and we'll collect that. And that's going to go to city staff, all right, and that's going to go to the next steps where this is going to be presented. Maybe I want to bring Nancy up to talk about where we go from here as a process.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you all. It's really great to see this discussion and really great to hear that really there were a lot of micro concerns that were really valuable that each of you brought that we wouldn't necessarily all share. So that's why so many voices is such a valuable thing to have. And our next steps will be that we will work, the city staff will work with Alta. We were actually imagining that a stronger consensus would have come out. So a consensus didn't really come out, although I do see trends here. So we'll work on trying to maximize the things that were liked and minimize the things that were disliked while still achieving the goal of traffic calming. So we're going to work on that in-house. We're going to go back to BPAC with our proposed solution, and then BPAC will be able to comment. If you've signed up today, we'll add you to the list of people who are noticed for BPAC meetings so that you'll be able to see when that happens and come if you like. And from then, we'll get plans and specs and bid it out.
No, from there, we go to the city council.
Oh, we will?
Yes, we want city council to bless whatever it is we're doing, then we go into final design.
Okay, so we will.
Quick question, maybe this doesn't matter. This one is labeled 2B here, but I think a lot of us called it 3. So things that say 3 up there, should
No,
that really be 2B?
no,
Or is
it
that
was-
something different?
No, we knew the difference.
Which one's 3?
Option 3 is not the same
Option
as
3 is
option-
number 4.
3 is number 5. I get it.
So did everyone, I checked with that table, they, when they said 3, they meant 3.
We meant 3.
Okay.
But-
Okay, yeah, I was confused because page 3
And don't
is
worry, we're
number
going to go
3.
back and count all the dots to make sure that nobody misrepresented, okay?
Yeah.
And I wasn't trying to mess with your vote. I was.
No, we were not, I would love to make a comment.
Okay, so thank you. One thing I want to clarify, the city manager asked me to clarify, before the member of the public left, he had raised the concern that if traffic went over the goal of 3,000 vehicle trips per day, it would no longer be a bike boulevard. That's not accurate. No matter the traffic, it's still a bike boulevard as long as it's designated as a bike boulevard. If council wants at some point to de-designate it, that could happen, but that's not in the plans. So it will be a bike boulevard, and we have a goal to keep the traffic under 3,000 trips per day. Regardless of whether we succeed or not at that goal, it's still a bike boulevard. So I just wanted to clarify that. And then, if I may, Tom, move it to the next item,
What is our next item?
public comment.
Okay. Let's, any public, that would be public comment for items not on the agenda, correct?
I guess.
Yes.
I guess. And we're going to keep it to 3 minutes max per statement.
And is BPAC
And it-
public?
And it's about this
BPAC's not part of the
project.
public.
Well, so does BPAC get a chance?
Yeah, at the end.
Yeah, then I guess we'll have, come
Okay.
yeah. All right,
It is concerning, public comments concerning this project.
all right, anything that's,
No.
I'm asking,
No,
I'm
it's supposed to
asking.
be for things that are not on our agenda, because people are supposed to be able to comment on anything.
all right.
Okay.
All right, seeing none, anybody, public comment on items on the agenda?
Yeah, there you
I believe it's related.
Okay.
In terms of the safety of people using the roadways, especially on Horton and the bike boulevard here, I would like there to be some consideration of some lighting enhancements or improvements on the street to be taken into consideration just in terms of the general plan for the area.
Okay, and make that note
Oh,
there
sure.
so we capture it on the plan responses.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and you had your hand up first.
So I have 2 comments. I think I would just ask that they take into consideration, I think that any plans that go with these calming measures, that whatever is set there at the corner, and we mentioned to this, that it's a very dangerous intersection there at Sherwin-Williams coming onto Horton. But the weird parking, the way that it's dangerous for autos as well as bicyclists. You can't see each other coming. So if they do put some kind of calming measure, that distance needs to be really gauged, because it's sometimes people are busy with what's going to happen at that intersection and not looking for the bicycle. So whether you're a car or a bike there, I think that is going to play a big impact on that. And I also think it should be noticed that we have limited parking spaces already in the area for businesses as well as for residents. So whatever parking spots are going to be removed also needs to be part of the discussion.
Some of the comments that we had at our table included actually adding parking to the street in the hopes of making the travel lanes a little bit less attractive to speeding. And so we put some comments on that.
Nice.
All right, thanks, Rob.
Would I be able to use the projector?
Yeah, although we're currently, I don't know whether you, since I spoke to you, the laptop, we don't have the right connector for it. Does anyone here know whether he can use a flash drive on this computer?
Yeah.
It looks like there's a thing for a flash drive right there.
This thing? This thing?
Yep.
Looks like you might give it a shot. While you're setting up, I'll ask somebody else. Who else has come? Stuff?
This engineer right here, say your name again.
Laurencio.
He did confirm that throughput capacity would be, all these plants would be the same as what currently exists, but it's sort of deductively true by definition that the stop signs determine the ultimate capacity,
Okay.
throughput capacity.
Okay. All right, thanks. So you went from the the engineer to the traffic engineer.
That's right.
Yeah, okay. All right, any other comments from the public? Yeah.
Just that our table had a clear preference for the bollards to really protect the bicyclists. And the drawback of that plan is that protecting the bicyclists does nothing to remove or calm the traffic. It just protects the bicyclists, which is a noble goal. But the plans did not have ways to combine those two concepts.
Okay.
Slow down traffic, remove traffic, get the trucks off that street, and with speed bumps and I would say speed guns, radar, police, anything there's lots of ways. A stop sign at, as Rob's going to say, another stop sign here would help a lot. But in other words, those protecting the bicyclists and removing the cars is the goal.
Yeah.
So also, when I asked about that kind of question, they said go ahead and write notes. So they know that's what you're looking for.
Sarah?
Our table kind of preferred for bicyclists Plan 3, but we liked Plan 1 as well, and there was some talk of none of the plans seemed to be enough and that we wanted more, so we liked Plan 3 for the way that the chicanes were set up, but then would want to integrate the Plan 1 speed humps. So I'm curious if the people who liked Plan 1, who voted for Plan 1, I guess see tables 5 and 6, like that idea, and if that would establish a little more of a consensus of we like the combination of those two plans.
Okay.
Yep. On the difference for cyclist safety between a separated lane and something with chicanes, is there any quantitative information on, is it safer and are chicanes really something, is that a traffic calming measure or is that a pro cyclist device? Because it seems like there's sort of different.
Chicanes would be a traffic calming device. But yeah, I don't think that that's really put out there as a sort of cyclist-focused device, but really just something to create some, friction in the roadway and slow the cars down.
Yeah. So the chicanes they're not a proactive cyclist safety measure. They're just a general traffic calming measure, which may have a secondary effect of helping.
Well, Scott's comment was that if I may quote him, that the chicane has the effect of using the bicyclist to slow the traffic by pushing them into the front of the traffic.
My name's Robert. I'm from Bike Eats Bay. I also sit on the Oakland Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission as well. And I wanted to bring up the fact that Oakland is working on a bike master plan update for their city in 2016 throughout this year. This will be a good opportunity to talk about some of these border issues too that exist a little bit further south in the area that we're looking at today. And I think the corridor that we're looking at is very important, but a lot of those issues exist because of stuff that's happening further south, mostly with traffic turning from Mandela Parkway and then making a left turn straight up instead of making what we want them to do is right now is 3 turns. I think through the bike plan process that Oakland's working on, technically Oakland territory, we should really be looking at making it easier for drivers to continue straight onto Yerba Buena and then making that single turn still, but onto Hollis instead of onto Horton Street. So I encourage anybody who's interested to stay abreast of the Oakland bike plan updates and get engaged, especially with these border issues, because I don't think the Oakland people are going to really deal with it themselves unless they're really hearing it from this community.
How do people hear about the Oakland BPAC meetings?
Oaklandbikes.info is the landing spot, and monthly meetings on the 3rd Thursday of every month. But you can subscribe for updates so you can a head start on what the agenda is, and so when those bike plan items show up, you can either write in with your comments or show up and make them in person.
Oakland Bike what?
Oaklandbikes. .info.
I see.
Okay. Well.
And I.
Oh yeah, Rob, go ahead. Sorry.
I live in the Park Avenue district and ride that road daily. I probably ride it as much as anybody in the city, I'd say. And I even spoke with somebody from Pedal Express who probably rides it more than me. none of us ever have a problem on this particular strip. All the, problems, in my opinion, are on areas that you're neglecting as part of this plan. This one in particular, if you're familiar with this intersection, it's Sherwin, where it meets Horton. Totally blind intersection, dangerous to cars, dangerous to bikes. I think since maybe this picture was taken, they've red curved the corners right here to add a little bit of a visibility. But Scott, will you vouch for me as a resident of that corner that
yes,
it's a dangerous intersection. It's very hard for cars to nudge out and see either direction. I'm surprised that a bike hasn't been taken out by a car. I also wanted to present some data. This doesn't include the 2015 data, but 5 years of accidents on Horton. None of them are in this strip that we're addressing right now. They're all on 40th, and they're all in front of Amtrak. So it just seems like if we're going to pour a bunch of money, if the goal of this is to make bicycle riders safer, then we might be attacking the problem at the wrong place. So I also wanted to throw this one out here, even though it's way the hell on the other side of North Emeryville. This intersection of Berkeley at Ashby and 7th is maybe the worst bottleneck of the entire city. It bleeds into Emeryville, again, technically in Berkeley. There's 2 lights that are probably spaced 100 feet away from each other, and if you want to keep cars on Hollis, which is what we want to do, we've got to give them a better way of getting out of here. So.
Yeah, but they're going to redo that intersection. They're just starting to redo that intersection now, so it's going to be all redone.
Yeah, and I'll throw this one out here too. This graphic I did. At the time, there was a discussion, a little confusing, of putting protected ballards here, like the artist co-op is here. And what it didn't show is where all the cars going to go. I mean, some people think, okay, you make it more difficult to drive, people are going to stop driving. I don't really prescribe to that. They're going to, find another way to go, and it's going to just distribute all that traffic onto Park Avenue. The city just spent $5 million renovating that. It's a beautifully pedestrian travel route, and it's already totally logged jammed with delivery cars and moving vans. So I think we got to zoom out a little bit and see where it's going to disperse these cars, when you make it harder for them. And the maps that you're presenting to us don't really take that kind of panoramic view. So anyway, that's what I had to say.
Thank you. Okay, any other public comment? Now, Tom, you want to go to committee member comment?
Yes, do we have any committee member comments on what we've done?
Yeah, my name is Laura McCamey. I'm on the committee, and we've discussed this quite a bit, and it's great to hear everyone's feedback. And I want to say something about the bike lanes and the bigger picture, and I agree that bike lanes are the most comfortable, safe way for bicyclists, and the reason I'm very strongly against them in this particular instance is because they don't do anything, as you said, for traffic calming. One of the things I wanted to point out is that 2 of the groups that had bike lanes as their #1 feature sounded like they had the speed humps as their #2. So it sounded to me like there's some consensus underneath all this that we like speed humps, that we need, and my feeling is that none of these were aggressive enough. The original discussion, which I think someone referenced at the beginning, was for a choke point, that there is a huge problem of traffic coming from Mandela onto this at rush hour. And I've ridden this a lot during the day, and the Horton is very pleasant in the middle of the day. It's at rush hour that it's a real problem. In the morning, there's FedEx trucks barreling down. In the evening, there's people who think it's faster to ride on a bike boulevard than the freeway, which is very unpleasant for a bicyclist. They're not very gentle about sharing the road. So the trouble with the bike lanes is that it won't discourage those people and the bike lanes alone, and then the block south of there's a bike boulevard, so I'm going to have to share the road with all those people. And so if we could have continuous bike lanes, then we have a continuous network from Mandela all the way out to where I think at 53rd it starts bike lanes again. That would be a whole different story, but adding a little bit of bike lanes isn't going to calm it. So I just wanted to put that out there, that to achieve the goal of traffic calming, I think we have to incorporate some of the elements from the other options. So, thanks.
Okay, I'd like to add that the real problem is further south at 40th Street, where there's a sign that says, local traffic only, no through traffic, but it can't be enforced, it isn't enforced, and there's no diverter there. And what should happen long-term is a traffic diverter for motorized vehicles to force them to turn left or to turn right. And that will slow down traffic and keep them from coming onto this stretch to use it as an alternative commute route, which is what they're doing right now.
How do I get home? How
Any
would
other-
I get home?
Any other committee comments? Is that it for our agenda?
I think it is.
Okay.
Yeah, they didn't.
I'm gonna
They didn't give us
call
spike
the meeting
strips
over.
as a.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.